Hey everyone, I don't know if you can see me. If you can, let me know in the chat. Let's see. Can you guys see me? I can't tell. There we go. I think it's loading. There we go. Alright, cool. Well, hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Thank you all for watching and waiting. I know it took a few extra minutes to get online. Today I'm going to be talking about what happened in Washington D.C. Obviously, most of you guys are aware that there was a lot of chaos and that the Capitol building was sieged earlier today. I would like to go over exactly what happened and why it happened, as well as go through some footage of exactly like a play-by-play of what occurred there. I'm also going to be taking a look at some of the people who were involved, specifically like what groups were involved. There was a lot of people who were talking about it being like an infiltration of Antifa, or that there was left-wing agitators involved in the siege, and I'd really like to just go through everything step by step, show you guys actual footage so you can see for yourself what happened, and I will be taking questions, so if you guys do have any questions, please let me know. I will be happy to answer them. So going back to what happened earlier today, basically there was a rally today in Washington D.C. and during that rally there were obviously a bunch of Trump supporters, people who were there to basically like stop the steal is the phrasing that people like to use, and that the meaning of that is people feel, specifically Republicans, conservatives, Trump supporters, they feel that this election has been stolen. They feel that there wasn't enough transparency in the process. Specifically because there was a lot of requests from like grassroots movements asking for an audit of the Dominion voting machines, asking for a stricter look at the absentee ballots, as well as a lot of controversy over whether or not mail-in ballots should be allowed in certain states. A lot of those requests, although some of them were acknowledged, they were largely ignored by legislators. There were some states that took the initiative to do an audit, such as Michigan, where certain machines in certain counties were reviewed by a forensic audit. However, after those audits were done, nothing happened. So I think a lot of people basically were frustrated the election went, not with the outcome of the election necessarily, but of how it was managed, the transparency, things like that. So a huge number of people went to DC today. Couldn't tell you exactly how many people were in DC. There was definitely at least 100,000 people there. That said, lots of people are just basically upset. And what happened was a large crowd gathered outside of the Capitol building. That crowd resulted in a siege of the Capitol. There's really no other way to put it. There was a siege on the Capitol building. That siege resulted in the Capitol being stormed and taken control of by a right-wing movement. And I'm going to just go through and show you guys some footage. If the video is lagging or anything like that, maybe you guys can let me know in the chat. I'm not really able to tell how effective this video is streaming, and I think that are a few issues with connectivity here right now. So if you guys can maybe just confirm whether or not everything is loading well, because we're going to look at some of the footage from DC today. And let me tell you, it was wild. There was one woman who was shot and killed by D.C. police when she was storming the Capitol. And it was really just, excuse my French, but it was a shit show. There is no other way to put it. When you have any sort of movement that is storming an official building, it would be disingenuous to not call this some sort of extremist reaction or an occupation, because that's really what it was. Maybe to give you guys some context about what I think caused all of this. Obviously, we just talked about how the election, people feel it was rigged, and they, on top of that, feel that not enough was done to review the issues and inconsistencies that many claimed existed. So that was part of the issue. Another part of the issue that I feel needs to be mentioned when we're talking about this is the fact that throughout 2020, there was a number of domestic terror incidents in which I don't know how well I'm going to be able to fix that at the moment. Sorry, guys. I'll see what I can do as far as the echo goes, but I might have to grab some headphones if it gets really bad and use a mic. Sorry, it's probably on my end. Is it totally impossible to understand what I'm saying, or is it kind of like manageable? Let me know. Anyway, so basically basically throughout the summer there was a number of riots completely blown off basically by the legislators and the media. People just ignored it. Like, Kenosha was burnt to the ground and multiple news organizations called it a demonstration. They never called it a domestic terror attack, which it was. It's a domestic terror by definition is considered any sort of violence against people or individuals that cause that is used to So, I mean, there's no other way to put it. The attack on Kenosha was a domestic terror incident. The riots, which were used to retaliate against police officers throughout the summer, were all considered, in my opinion, a domestic terror incident. And it is partisan and disingenuous to call certain activities on one side of the political spectrum domestic terror or extremist without applying those same definitions to the opposite side of the aisle. So today what we saw was definitely a siege. It was definitely an extremist attempt to alter the election outcome, in my opinion, and to demand something different from Congress. So a lot of what we're seeing today is kind of the perfect storm of a lack of addressing what happened in 2020 in regards to the riots, as well as a lack of trust in what happened in this election. Now, for most people, I think, that were in D.C., they do not condone this. I think that a lot of people in D.C. who were there to protest for election integrity had no interest in being involved in a siege of the Capitol building. Regardless, it happened anyway, and I'm going to show you guys some footage now. Hopefully you can see it and it plays well. So here we go. This is a video from earlier today. I'm gonna play it for you guys. The quality's kind of crappy, but hopefully you guys can tell what's happening. Basically, there's a bunch of people who are standing on the steps of the U.S. Capitol building. This is in Washington, D.C., and this is where the Electoral College votes were going to be counted and acknowledged, accepted, or basically, what's the word I'm looking for? They were going to be not rejected, but contested, basically, by certain individuals. And so this group of people, they're all Trump supporters. Okay, let me address something really quick that has been floated around by people on Twitter and people online. I've seen a number of media pundits who are saying that there was some sort of Antifa presence, or that there was Antifa agitators who were involved in this siege, and that is, quite frankly, it's not true. At least there's no solid evidence of that. As somebody who I personally cover Antifa both in Colorado and throughout the country, it's like one of my primary focuses. I can confirm that I have not seen a single shred of evidence that this was, whereas people started breaking the windows of the building, and they made their way in. So let's see if I can get you guys a video. This is probably going to be a little grainy. Let's see if you guys can see it. So here what we see is people pushing the barrier where the police are preventing individuals from actually accessing the courtyard, the exterior of the Capitol building. As you guys can see, they're grabbing the barriers, they are pushing the barrier down. There's officers trying to respond and fix it, but they are definitely outnumbered. There's probably, my estimation would be probably 500 to 600 people in this general area. Obviously there's not that many people pushing on the barriers, but there's not very many officers protecting this barrier, so they had to actually push through the Metro Police. There's another video that I am going to play in a minute here, where you can actually see if you look at this happening from behind, you can see police kind of give up a little. Like, they're so outnumbered, and I'm sure they were not expecting this type of activity, perhaps from what has been typically peaceful Trump supporters in the Capitol. But basically, here's the video. I'll play it for you guys now once it loads. But basically what happened was, the Trump supporters were pushing on the barrier. It was getting pretty intense. I think Metro Police were outnumbered, and two, not expecting that kind of push, and they basically kind of like stepped back almost, and you can actually see one officer wave people in, which was weird. I don't really understand what happened there, but basically the floodgates opened, people were allowed into the courtyard, and from there they forcibly took the Capitol steps. Now once people are actually in the courtyard, you can tell that off them from getting on the steps, stop them from getting closer to the building. But that was super unsuccessful. It just did not work at all. Once they made it past the barriers, that was it. It looks like this video is kind of taking a minute to load. Sorry about that. But I don't typically download videos from Twitter because I kind of feel like I should edit the original users. Here we go. Let's see. So, maybe if I refresh the page. But yeah, do you guys have any questions so far? Any questions? If you do, I will answer them while this loads. No questions yet? Okay, so let's see here if this loads. Hopefully it does. Maybe if I log off my phone. So, once everybody was inside of the Capitol building, it was free range. Like, there's this iconic picture that I'll pull up in a few minutes where a guy in like bull horns, he's wearing no shirt, he has bull horns on, and his face is painted red, white, and blue. He's called like the Q shaman or something like that. And he basically is a QAnon supporter, QAnon believer, and he kind of led people through the building. It was definitely, he played definitely a leading role, and there's a few pictures of him throughout the building where he's like sitting in the Congress chairs, where he's like kind of like doing victory poses throughout the chambers. It was really bizarre. I can't say I've ever seen anything like it. Geez, hopefully this plays. If not, we might just have to bypass it. If you guys want to watch this video and you have TikTok, it is on TikTok. The user who posted it, his name is Marcus Dipaloa. So Marcus.Dipaloa. And he was actually in DC. He caught the footage himself, so you guys could watch it there. He has multiple clips of what happened available on his TikTok. I don't know. I don't think this is going to load for some reason. I'm not sure if it's just my internet or what's going on, but yeah, so basically the Capitol was taken, and there's a lot of people who are saying, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are excusing this type of behavior. Like, I've seen it so many times I can't even explain to you. As soon as I came out and said earlier today that basically this was led by right-wingers and that it is an extremist attempt at sieging the Capitol, people were like super pissed. They said, no, it was an Antifa attempt. It was led by Antifa agitators. Look here. And there was a lot of people trying to throw... Here we go. The chat is dedicated to, like, right-wing conspiracy stuff. So it's like... almost like Alex Jones stuff, but even a little bit more out of the norm. So it's like, you know, that's where the Save the Children movement comes from. That's where the whole trust the plan phrasing comes from. And okay, so I got this video going finally. So here we see the people outside the Capitol. They're all pushing against the fence, and then there's officers standing closest to the camera. Good God, this is not going to load probably. Basically what happens is the officers kind of step back and they just like wave people in. And I don't think that this was any sort of like conspiracy with the officers and these Trump supporters. I think it was more that they were like, well, we're not going to be able to keep them here anyway kind of thing, because they're pushing so hard against the barrier. So, you know, I don't think there was any conspiracy between the officers and these people. I think that the officers most likely made a mistake by allowing them into the courtyard, and from there they completely lost control of the situation. This is the guy that I was talking about that led the siege pretty much. He was pictured as one of the first people into the Capitol building, and he kind of had like an honor. So he's called the Q Shaman, which is his like nickname, I guess. He was pictured at a BLM rally in I think Arizona, but he was there to counter protest, and he was holding a sign that said Q sent me. So that's like some phrasing that the QAnon people use to suggest like leading this movement, that Q sent him to counter protest what's going on. So he was definitely a QAnon like conspiracy believer. I think that, let's see, what else can we discuss about this? I did find his Facebook. His name is Jake Angeli, and he has a lot of pictures on Facebook of holding the line patriots and like things about naturopathic medicine, like cannabis is good for your health, and a list of different plants that he recommends for medicinal uses. So a very strange individual, obviously a conspiracy theorist. I think that it's important to note, because up until now the QAnon conspiracy theory has kind of gone, it's flown under the radar. There have been some leftist media groups who called out how just insane some of these things that people believe in are. And in my opinion, a lot of these QAnon people behave as if they're almost in a cult. Like, they don't know who the leader of this movement is. They don't know what the end goal of the movement is. They don't understand like what the plan is that they're supposed to be following, but they follow it anyway. So here is a picture of this individual that he goes by the QAnon Shaman, or the Q Shaman, and this is the entourage that I told you he was with. So if you guys can kind of take a look at this picture, this picture got a lot of scrutiny because people were saying that the individual with him, once it loads again, it must be my internet today, but people were saying once this picture came out that the guy on the right, let me show you, this guy on the right here next to him, where my mouse is, with the brown beard, people were saying that he was proof that Antifa orchestrated this whole thing because of the tattoo on his left hand, which would be your right. So if you're looking at this picture, this guy here in the yellow, he has 2 tattoos, one on each hand, and the one right, almost like a California bear, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And this one right here on the left, people were saying was a hammer and sickle. And I did see some people like retweeting this saying this guy's a communist, it's definitely a hammer and sickle, and that's not the case. I downloaded the image, I enhanced the image, and zoomed in, and it is not a hammer and sickle. I can guarantee you that. It is some sort of, I don't know what it is. I don't know, maybe it looks like maybe a saxophone, maybe a whale, I'm not really sure, but it is not. Actually facing off with Metro Police, and you can't really tell from the way the image is cropped, but there's actually like a few police officers right in front of them. This guy here with the beanie on, he has a Trust the Plan jacket on, and that's, like I said, that's QAnon. This guy here with the long beard and long hair, he's actually the individual who broke open the windows of the Capitol building, and he pretty much led like the info. It's hard to say at this point. There's so many people that I'm working to identify right now that, and obviously because I don't know where these guys came from, this was a nationwide rally. I mean, people from all over the nation came, so I have to go through riot footage and protest footage from pretty much every state in order to basically eliminate where these guys came from and to try and identify them. So my guess is that he's from some sort of extremist movement from the right wing. Like I said, perhaps 3%ers, perhaps. Here is a pretty crazy video. I actually think this one might load, but it is of everybody breaking into the Capitol, and here we go. So this guy, he actually has this clear shield, and he starts slamming through the glass on the Capitol building with his clear shield, and then as you can see, a few other people join in, then everybody starts climbing through the windows. And this guy who was, like I said, who was slamming through the window, he's the guy in the previous photo with the white beard and long hair. So this kind of discredits the idea that this is like some sort of left-wing led movement designed to like make Trump supporters look bad. I know I've gotten a lot of flack for that today, but I'm sorry.